NDEs, however, are really specific experiences reported by people who are close to death or who have clinically died and been resuscitated. Often these people report an out-of-body experience and say that they've encountered a different reality. Now, NDEs, can be positive experience, it can be neutral, negative, or a mixed experience. Researchers, including psychologists, neurologists, cardiologists, and oncologists, have been studying near-death experiences and the impact of these on individuals for over 50 years. Now, there's a lot that we don't know about, and there's no consensus about what these experiences are or what they even mean. But there's a significant documented evidence that people of all ages, backgrounds, and walks of life have reported them and continue to. I am one such person. Now, today, we're not really looking to find any specific answers, but to explore this topic together, keeping in mind that death is a difficult experience to talk about and to encounter for many of us. So we're going to meet this topic of NDEs and any conversation about death with an open curiosity and compassion for ourselves and, most importantly, others. And we want to hear from you. How do you feel when you hear about NDEs? Are you comfortable or uncomfortable speaking about death? Have you ever had an NDE or close call with death that changed you? You can give us a call if you'd like to share. We'd really love to hear from you. Give us a call at 615-760-2000. That's 615-760-2000. All right, now to get us started, This is Nashville producer Catherine Cece spoke with Dr. Marietta Filiavona. She is a scientific researcher who studies NDEs and the Division of Perceptual Studies in the Department of Psychiatry and Neurobehavior Sciences at the University of Virginia School of Medicine. Let's take a listen.
Marietta, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me.
Thank you for having me.
So you study near-death experiences. As far as I understand, there's no one specific definition of an NDE, but can you just tell us what are near-death experiences?
Yes, there's currently no clinical definition, but in general, these experiences are understood to be subjective, personal, highly transformative experiences that can happen when someone is close to death, including being clinically dead and subsequently resuscitated, or even in some other medical crisis. So every near-death experience is idiosyncratic to the individual who is having it, but there are certain elements or features that researchers have been able to identify from studying thousands of these experiences. So one of the most common features is people experiencing themselves outside of their physical body and maybe even observing their body from a vantage point outside of it. People also often report feelings of peace and joy and unconditional love, although I should say some experiences are also reported as distressing. There's also a very almost like a hyper-real vividness of senses. There may be encounters with various mystical beings, mystical entities, or deceased loved ones. And another very interesting feature is what we call a panoramic life review. So the person might experience significant events from their life, going back to the beginning of their life, and experiencing them not just from their perspective, but also from the perspective of other people, including potentially experiencing the emotions of these other people and how they were affected by the given event. And one of the most common changes that we see is that people may lose their fear of death almost instantaneously and become convinced that there is life after death.
Do we know how common NDEs are?
Yes, so there's no precise answer because it depends on the study, but if you look at critically ill patients, some studies say that about 17% of people will report a near-death experience. If you look specifically at cardiac arrest, between 18 and 23% of cardiac arrest patients will report a near-death experience. These experiences are not rare, and they reliably happen in certain kinds of medical situations or settings, including cardiac arrest.
Can you share how you got interested in NDEs and what your research is focused on right now?
I would say over time, just delving into this topic, it just became so fascinating to me because people share these stories of powerful transformation. I've become very interested in doing research on how to help them and support them, because even if the content of the ND is very positive, and again, unconditional love, peace, joy, this overwhelming sense of being home, when these people come back, they can still struggle and just not know how to integrate this experience into their prior lives and prior perceptions of who they are. So I want to look at things like, how do we support these people? What do they need? How do we educate medical professionals about this experience? Because they're the ones who are likely to encounter these experiencers right after they have an NDE.
Stuffy.
What do you hope someone will take away about NDEs in general?
I really hope that people can become more accepting, even if you yourself have not had a near-death experience, which most people don't. I think it's important to recognize that these experiences are very real and impactful for the people who have them. I just think it's important to just recognize we don't know everything, we haven't been exposed to everything, but we need to be respectful of other people's experiences. Especially something that has been documented for decades, and thousands, millions of people have reported this experience.
All right, that was Dr. Mariella Pelivanova talking with This Is Nashville producer Catherine Ceces. And Marietta, if you're listening, I really apologize for butchering your name the first time around, but that's why we try and get better. Okay, so we want to hear from you. We want to hear from you. How do you feel about NDEs? Are you comfortable or uncomfortable speaking about death? Did you experience an NDE or have a close call with death that changed you? Give us a call if you'd like to share. Again, we really want to hear from you. 615-760-2000, 615-760-2000. Joining us now to share about her perspective on NDEs from her experience caring for those who are going through the dying process is Wilka Roig. She is a transpersonal psychologist and an end-of-life doula and educator with the International End-of-Life Doula Association. Wilka is based in Mexico, but she's joining us now from Santa Fe, New Mexico. Wilka, thank you so much for being here with us. Welcome to This Is Nashville.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
Really appreciate you being here. You know, we got a lot to talk about today, but I really want to start, getting to know what an end-of-life doula is. Can you tell us what end-of-life doulas are and how you serve people who are approaching the dying process?
Sure. End-of-life doulas are a non-medical professional role in the space of the dying and the grieving. And this movement came about since it's been sort of evolving since Elizabeth Kubler-Ross started talking about we need to listen to the patients and to the people who are dying and not just assume that we have the knowledge and that it's a medical event only. It is also it is more importantly a human event and a natural event. And so we started to see that there were gaps in the care for dying people, and this role emerged as a companion, an advocate, someone who is there to hold the space and to honor the autonomy of the person in their dying process, their choices, their feelings, whatever is coming up for them that they need to address so that they can more easily leave this life. And so a doula nowadays works individually or in a collective or in a volunteer group and complements all of the other teams that are supporting a dying person, sometimes within hospice or in hospitals or at home. And there's a whole spectrum of things that we can do for a dying person and their circle of care. So we invite the conversations, we create safe spaces for exploration and for getting the person to really know what they're thinking, how they're feeling, and what their wishes are, because when somebody is with a terminal diagnosis or in the dying process, there's a lot that is being told to them about what they need to do, what they can't do. And so this is a space for them to really connect with and reclaim their own process.
The folks that you care for are pretty vulnerable spaces, as you said. They can painful, difficult moments in their lives. You have to have a dedicated intention in being present for someone else who's dying. What do you hope in your work? What do you hope to offer and bring people that you care for?
Well, exactly what you're saying. Presence is the most important thing. So we come in with a compassionate, loving, non-judgmental presence. So a big part of what doulas have to do is work on their self-awareness and responsibility to hold the space for them so that it's not about us. And then just be a presence that receives and that witnesses the process, that listens, that reflects back, that asks the open-ended questions that will just encourage the exploration for the dying person and their circle of care. We come in without expectations, without an agenda, just to allow for the process to unfold.
Mm-hmm. We have a call from Stefan in Gallatin. Stefan, thank you so much for giving us a call, my friend. What would you like to share?
I'm a Christian, Pentecostal in my faith. Believe in the indwelling Spirit of God. The Lord filled me with the Spirit of God when I was 18, and I kind of kept doubting, kind of fearful. One night while I was praying, I prayed that prayer, Lord, I want to feel your presence again. I want to be able to know I got your Spirit. So when I went to sleep, my spirit came out of my body. I remember I can see me laying on my bed, but I was at the ceiling and I could feel the ceiling. It was kind of not weird, but different from a human, experience.
Mm-hmm.
And his voice told me, it ain't that I didn't feel you with my spirit, you doubted me. And as soon as he said that, I went back into my body. And I remember getting up screaming, and my brother, Kerry, was in the other room. He came out and said, man, what's wrong with you? And I told him, and just from that experience, I know the other life is real, the afterlife. But I actually know there is out-of-body experience. That's my experience.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Well, because sometimes we may have experiences that mirror some aspect of NDEs when they're even apparently not close to death. Is that something that you just heard from Stefan?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me see. What I've observed is that, any person at any moment in their life can have a moment like was just shared, where there is an opportunity to connect with something greater. And that shows up for people in the way that has meaning to them. And that, as the doctor, the researcher that spoke earlier, it brings us back with a greater sense of confidence and joy and connection with unconditional love and all of these things. And what I have observed with dying people is that often there are those moments when they are leaving their bodies and then coming back before they actually go through the transition of death. So this is something that, from my standpoint, can happen at any point, and as long as the body is still viable and can still sustain life, then there can be that return with a greater awareness or with something that allows them to move forward.
Stefan, let me ask you this. After your experience, immediately after, in the years since, because this happened when you were a young man, from what I understand, did you feel a bit different? Did you feel like you had a new sense of purpose? Like you became clear on what you were to do with your life in your remaining days here on earth?
Yes, sir. I've always stayed faithful to God after that. And it's just the reality to know he exists, and it's not a fairy tale or the Bible's a myth. It's a real situation with me. And I've been able to share those things with other people to help them and guide them in their life of there is an afterlife. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to call us up, and really, really grateful that you shared your experience with us, my friend. Thank you, Stefan.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good day, my man. Now, Woka, from what I understand, when you were quite young, you had an experience where you were close to death.
Wow. Niggas almost ready, y'all.
Yeah, that's my radio station. I listen to it all the time. Khalil Akbar. left the door wide open. And I got excited and left all my food in the car.